Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
What's up?
Man, bro, I can't believe you retired from the military.
Me?
Did you go 10 years, or how many years did you do?
No, I didn't retire from the military. My deal with the military is medical.
How many years did you do?
5 or 6.
Okay. 2 contracts, huh?
Yeah.
I'm going to get a more pleasing background. Boom.
Yeah, bro, we got that TV going in the background.
Alexa, turn off the stupid... Turn off. Alexa, turn off.
That thing never turns off. It's always recording you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Miguel, we're ready, buddy.
We're live already, so everything's kind of ready to go. And we got the Lions Den reunion, Tony Galindo and Vernon White for starters. We'll see if anybody else joins us, but if not, I think we got a full plate already anyway. So, Mike, take it away.
All right, so we're going to start hot. Both of you guys recalled having a fist fight with Ken in the back of an alley that he called you from home to come to and had you bring your shoes and gear because it was going to go down.
Wow, he must have hit Tony hard because that was not in the alley. That was in a nightclub.
No. My beating was inside. Vernon's was right outside the door.
Okay.
So he calls me up. I'm in bed asleep. And he says, come downtown and bring your wrestling shoes. So I'm sitting here like, what? So I do it. I walk into the bar. I got my shoes.
Yeah, but before he did that, he called me. And he's like, hey, did Ken just call you and ask you to bring your shoes? I'm like, no, he called me, but he didn't say bring my shoes. So, oh, fuck. So he's all wait for me. I'm like, no, fuck that. I left, man, immediately. I wanted to take the brunt of it first.
Yeah. So, yeah, he got there before I did. And then the guy inside the club was looking at me like, oh, shit, there's somebody else here. So I just remember, because I had a fight coming up. I was supposed to be fighting in King of the Cage. So he yells out, did you sleep with my wife? I'm like, what? I'm looking at him, what are you talking about? You told us to take her out. No, none of us slept with her, so, and at that time, I didn't have enough balls to say, I hate your wife. Because, it's just, he forced us to talk to her. So it was just one of those things.
Okay, so you guys both went through your descriptions of what took place. How long after do things become cool again? What kind of conversations take place?
It was the cops.
Never got cool again.
The cops came. They got a little heated because, they had people call them saying that this crazy guy was beating these guys up. And when the cops came, they were like, you guys better get the fuck out of here. So what we did is we ended up taking Ken with us straight to Michelle's, the lady that ran the stripper club, and just so he could calm the fuck down and do more coke.
Yeah, he kneed me in the leg. I remember
he kneed you in the thigh on the side so hard that it sounded like a 2x4, and that was like, dude, that ruined you because you couldn't train, you couldn't do shit. You don't remember that? You probably blocked it out of your mind.
No, I remember. I still have a dead spot on my leg because of him.
I'm sure you do, dude.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait. So, Vernon, when do things become cool between you and Ken again after something like this takes place?
It didn't. It was never cool between us again. We never hung out outside of clubs. we never did anything again until just recently when I just went to the Raiders game with him. So,
Really?
yeah, it's never really been cool between us again because you can't accuse me of sleeping with someone, and my loyalties lie with you, not with her. The only reason any of us talked to her was because he forced us to talk to her.
You especially, dude. You're like the pillar from the beginning. You're like the story. If there was the story of the Lions Den, you're like the dude who was there from beginning to the end. You saw everybody.
Behind your back, people from that scene say, he's the most loyal person I have ever seen, known, heard of in my entire life. That's what made it worse. People, complete strangers say that about you behind your back.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was loyal to a fault.
Yeah, man.
Now, I know obviously, hi, this is Miguel. I'm staying off camera so in case we get Chris and everything. But, so, obviously with the gym camaraderie and Ken being a mentor, he beats the crap out of you like that. You're not going to call the cops. I mean, that's not what goes on there and stuff. But did the thought cross your mind of leaving the gym, going to train with somebody else, or,
Nah, if you're asking, like, I'll speak for myself. Nah, not for me because, I mean, at that point, I was literally, the Lions Den was my peak. After that, everything was kind of idling, and then I took the role of trying to do the gym thing. But with Vernon, ask him. He's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as me, some people asked me to go to Couture's gym, and I wouldn't go. They were like, just go talk to Randy. You'd be treated a lot better there. And Quest. So, but I was like, yeah, I live here. And I'm not going to be fighting for the rest of my life, so I'm not going to even be around Ken for the rest of my life. And as you see now, we talk every now and then, but we're not the friends that we used to. I'm not that young kid that was like Hitch that used to hook him up with females behind his wife's back.
Yeah. Yeah, now, how about the next question along that vein is, did you guys ever consider like an out-and-out intervention? Because, I mean, we're seeing an escalation here. He was getting to be out of control at some point, with drugs, and it became more important in his career.
Look, none of that really fucking mattered until he crossed that line. Because obviously, and now I'm speaking for myself, I was there to do, the shit no one else was going to do because I love being there and I like that. But once you get accused of something, and he did that a couple times, not just with the wife thing. He also said that I stole some shit, which I later found out, which also kind of like blew me away. You know what I mean? Because that's not how he operates. If I would have taken anything from him, he'd beat the fuck out of me.
Right.
So it was just that kind of thing I felt was more like him trying to get even in a hurtful way. That's how I perceived it because
don't forget.
What's
don't
that?
forget. Never forget this. Ken has had some injuries to his brain in training, and he also went through some. He went through some drug problems. So in his mind, that crap was real, until after he sobered up, and then he was like, then you could tell the difference in him. He wasn't that same guy.
There's that too. And the fact that he was in a coma because they beat the shit out of him with bats. When they beat the fuck out of him, the wrestler, the brothers.
The Nasty Boys.
That dude in, huh?
The Nasty Boys.
Yeah. And he's had some shit in his head, of course. But even that, at the end, I thought, for me, I can understand to a point him thinking that about me. But Vernon, it's like that if in my mind, and this is no bullshit, in my mind I thought if he could do that to him, I'm not even in the fucking radar, man. So that was the eye opener, man.
Yeah. So Vern, with that of yourself, you were there from the beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
What was Ken's relationship like with Scott Bessac?
Scott was getting Ken steroids too, I'm sure. But yeah, Ken, everyone that came into Ken's life was kind of like an enabler for him.
An enabler.
Yeah, for lack of a better word, like they kept him going, doing what he was doing, you know. So, and then when he couldn't use you anymore, then you were gone.
So, Vern, let me ask you, what would you consider like the high point then of the Lions then? Like, where would you pinpoint it?
Yeah.
You know, was it Ken or was it yourself and Petey and like the next generation of guys that kind of took it further? How do you look back at that? Like, what was your high moment?
Well, I'd have to say my high moment was when I got into King of the Cage, personally, and started winning like it was nothing until I got hit by a car because I was out at a party doing drugs and stuff, trying to get home, and no one would come pick me up. And I just remember thinking to myself, crap, I got to get home. So I popped a couple ecstasy pills and I started walking home.
I remember.
And after that fight, after that, I had another fight, and some friend had given me some HGH. And after 9 months, I came back and I defended my title and I won. And I was still winning until like, I never really got on opiates or anything like that. So I think I had a pretty good career.
Yeah.
Opiates.
And a lot of guys point to that era of King of the Cage as being like the high point of King of the Cage too. You know what I mean? It's like where they talk about who was it who said when you don't, it was, you know, the UFC cage you could run around. Oh, I think it was Marvin Eastman. He mentioned the UFC cage you could run to Africa in. He said, but that King of the Cage was small and there was 5,000 people drunk in an Indian reservation. So. Like that atmosphere, that's what you guys remember. It was feel good, right?
Yeah, I was treated like an actual champion until I just heard from you guys that they wanted James to come and take my title from me. That kind of sucked. But
well, you didn't know, and it didn't happen.
I had no idea. But that's cool because I got to keep it for longer.
All right.
Yeah. So
I don't know if Tony, you were around at the time, but Hickson had a teacher, Carlos Valente, that came in and actually fought some of the people in your dojo. Vern, would you mind telling everybody kind of how that went down and what happened?
Carlos Valente, I have to remember the name. I don't remember exactly how that went. I know we had the one kid that they attacked in the ring before we moved down to San Diego. I remember that kid, but I don't remember the Valente thing.
So we did that story with in the Scott Bessac interview. Essentially, says Valente came in. You know, he was gonna attempt to make a professional career, a professional go at mixed martial arts, and you guys broke it off in him. Came back a few months later, give it a second shot. The same thing happened. So.
Yeah, I don't remember him that. Ken must not have let me fight him because I don't really remember me doing anything with him.
Tony, in your interview, you talked about Dorian Yates.
Yeah.
And your relationship with him.
Yeah.
Did you ever introduce him to the guys at the Den, or was it just a one-time thing?
No, he came in. He did some rolling around, but with him, it's not really rolling around. We're just showing him some shit, and it was like trying to wrestle a giant mannequin, dude. His fucking feet and calves were massive, but at the same time, you touch his calves and you freak the fuck out. So grappling and that kind of thing was not for him. But
And he also would not wrestle with anybody that wasn't Galindo, and he wouldn't wrestle with me. He would wrestle only with you and Ken because he was afraid someone was going to hurt him.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Exactly, dude. It's the same reason why he would never skydive, do any surfing, anything. Because he's like, fuck that. He goes, it's like asking a piano player if he wants to box. He goes, he's not gonna fuck up his fingers just for a little entertainment. So yeah, he was terrified of that shit.
What was his experience with Ken?
Well, at the beginning, see, with Dorian is more business oriented in his head. He wants to make money,
right?
In business,
right?
So at the beginning, he thought it would be a wonderful thing to team up with Ken and open an Olympic-style center in Chula Vista where they could do, he could teach all the fighters everything about nutrition and fucking lifting and getting big, and Ken could do the fighting part, you know? But we went out to dinner with Ken just to do set up the business deal, and Ken brought, obviously at the time, it was his wife, Tina. So he brought his wife because that all he took was just like 5 minutes of her talking to Dorian, and he kicked me under the table. He's like, he goes, his wife Tina. He kicks me under the table and he shakes his head, and he's like, 5 minutes of her talking to Dorian. Yeah, as soon as we left, he was like, he went from interested in talking to Ken, and he's like, starts asking Ken questions about the business at the dojo, and Ken knew less about that than he did about the menu. So he's like, I'll talk to my wife, she's in charge of that. And that kind of killed the entire conversation. So yeah, Dorian was like, wow. He goes, this guy has
never been
clue.
Business oriented. Yeah.
No, as soon as we left there, we get in the car and he goes, listen, mate, he goes, learn everything you can about fighting from him. But business-wise, yeah, I would stay as far away from him on that as possibly can, because this guy has no idea how to run business.
Did you have any business, like any insight in regards to how Ken did business, or maybe things that maybe fell
didn't
short?
do business?
No, he didn't.
I'll put it to you in a caveman way. Ken's idea of business was finding someone he loves, and he loves him back, and then he's like, okay, now you take care of this, and I'm gonna go take care of everything else that makes me happy. So
yeah, he's like, I just want to spend my money and eat.
Yeah, he basically hands the reins over to whomever he deems as the most trustworthy, and just like, hey, this is on you now. So you know, it all depends on who the person at the time. And he went through. He did it to everybody. He did it from his wife to the dad, from the dad to the girlfriend, back to the dad. But he never himself, business-wise, that was not his thing. His thing was fighting, dude.
Wait, Vern, Vern, did you ever see him attempt something business-wise and fall short? You yourself?
Nope. He would not handle any business. The only way that he would handle business was if Bob was in the room, Tina was in the room, and he would tell them what he wanted so he didn't have to bicker back and forth with people. And then they would get it for him, or they wouldn't get it for him. But it was never Ken saying, this is what I want. He would write it down or do whatever or talk to somebody, and then that's what they would get for him.
All right. We've talked about Bob Shamrock, both of you guys. Obviously, we talked about Frank, but the one person we never talked about was Robbie Kilpatrick. I'm going to start with, I know, Tony, you kind of touched on it. Let's start with Vernon. Vernon, what are your experiences like with Robbie?
I'm beating my head now. I'm beating my head now because I wish I never had any experiences with this guy. I remember we were riding around in San Diego after he got attacked, and there was a picture of these two people acting like a-holes on the side of this van. They took a plastic bag, wrapped it around this dude's head, and then put tape on it. And Robbie goes, that's what those guys did to me. And I'm looking at him like, what? And then he starts laughing. I'm like, you had a near-death experience and you're sitting here pointing at a van laughing about it. I'm like, you're twisted, dude. Like, and I had to stay in the same house with this guy for a while. And he kind of did the same thing that Tony did because Ken had brought me in. Rob was talking mad noise in front of people. I'm like, Ken, get your brother. He's like, no, you handle it. What? You're going to let me put my hands on your brother? Cool. So we went into the ring. We start fighting. We're going at it. I catch him in a leg choke, a triangle leg choke. I squeezed that kid so hard he had to go to the chiropractor, and he was out for like 2 weeks because I had took his head and pulled it up off of his spine and then twisted the head. And the doctors told him, you are lucky that you didn't get paralyzed. That's two of the things that I can remember with Robbie, because Robbie was a knucklehead. So
Dude.
I would even say he was worse than Tony when Tony first got there. At least Tony was respectful because of the military, but Robbie's like, I'm Ken's brother. I can say and do whatever I want.
Dude.
Now if I'm going to put my foot in your butt.
When I got there, my first experience with Robbie is, he's going to be, when Vernon's not around, I got to listen to him. And he's the one that was doing all the teaching and shit that I took over. So while I'm in there listening to see how he runs the class, I wear glasses. So when I train, I don't have my fucking glasses. So I would be squinting a lot because he'd be doing a lot of fucking sign hand shit. And he starts mad dogging me. And he'd do it. And then, after, I think it was like after the first week, he grabs me after class and he's all, what's your fucking problem? I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? He's like, you keep giving me mad stares. If we were anywhere else, I'd have fucked you up already. I was like, whoa, take it easy, man. I go, I wear glasses. I'm squinting. And he's all, oh, you were squinting. I understand now. Okay. And it's like, I go tell Vern, I'm like, what the fuck's up with this dude? Vern's all, yeah. Even if you catch him, just kind of play it along, because that's the kind of guy that if you embarrass in the dojo, he might come and stab you while you're sleeping. I was like, it's not a good trade-off. That's that doesn't sound like a good deal. But
yeah, we had to share the same room after I did all that to him. Like, we were all in the same apartment complex sharing the same room, because I remember at one time we had like 5 dudes in that one apartment, and there was 2 bedrooms. And Robbie didn't want to stay with the other guys because the other guys were new. So him and I stayed in the same room, and we kicked everybody out of that room so we could have our own room. And then after a while, Robbie got this new girlfriend, and then he took off, and then I kept the apartment. And then I didn't like that place anymore because it still smelled like Robbie. So I ended up moving to Imperial Beach, and Tony moved in with me, and some of the other guys moved in with me. Then these fools got into a fight, so I'm up here fighting Tony and Noah, like almost pushing them through the wall. Like, I hated that whole fighter house BS.
Whatever happened with Robbie? What took place with him?
That dude's in prison now for introducing drugs to a locked facility.
For what?
So, Robbie had a friend that was in prison. This fool thought it would be a good idea to go to the prison, being an ex-felon, and bring drugs in for him. Like, they're not going to give you a cavity search. Are you kidding me? So, yeah, they caught him trying to introduce narcotics into a locked facility, is what they call it. So, yeah, he's doing time. I believe he's still there, and I believe it was High Desert, California, Susanville.
Hey, guys, I got a question. We got a bunch of people listening, and everybody says hello. We got a veteran of the podcast, Vegan Higgler, has a bunch of Lions Den questions. Vernon, what was your opinion on, like, why was, like, some people put through such brutal, tryouts and stuff, but then guys like Guy Mezger sort of got a bye? What was going on in Ken's mind with stuff like that? Or did you notice that, that he took it easier on some people, like Guy, for example?
So part of Guy's initiation was going through the UFC. So Guy had already made a name for himself, so he didn't get beat down like most of us did. So yeah, like Ken made me. He wanted Guy in because Guy was a good looking. Bob wanted Guy in because Guy was good looking, and that's why he went with me. Because Ken would have probably freaking hurt him so bad he didn't want to come back. So, but yeah, I mean, I caught him in submission holds and. But yeah, he was an established fighter. That's why they wanted him.
Okay, then when you went out there, did they was he good? Did you take it easy on him, or like why was he not brutalized like everybody else?
Like I say, Ken wanted him in. Like we didn't punch each other in the face, but he was like punching me in the shoulders and like punching me all over the body, which I didn't think was doing anything to me until I went to go drink some water. And like when I put the thing up to my face, I hit myself in the face, and I remember looking at him like, "You SOB, I freaking hate you." But yeah, he just Ken didn't want him hurt. Like there's a couple times I had some heel hooks. I would have turned it on other people, but Ken didn't want him hurt, so I didn't turn him.
Okay, so Ken needed a team, and he was okay. Essentially, I can kind of see that as well. Otherwise, you got two guys that are just anybody that steps in there is you have a team of 3 people if you're lucky. I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
So, but yeah, some people he'd be like, "Vern, I don't want this guy to make it." He wouldn't make it. So, like, it all depends on how they talked to him and treated him, or how they talked to Bob, or if they disrespected anybody. Then yeah, Ken would be like, "Just get him out of here. As soon as we can get this guy out of here, he'll be the better."
Hey, remember that? Hey, remember that fucking dude that showed up with a tattoo of the Lions Den, and we were like, dude, he took off his shirt at the tryouts and he had a big tattoo of the Lions Den. And we're like,
wasn't that Ashe?
That was that dude. Yeah, that was him, right?
Yeah, Ashe had it. We told him if you don't pass this tryout,
we're gonna scrape you. Yeah.
We're gonna take you out on the asphalt and scrape that tattoo off your body.
Wait, that's Ashe Bowman. Am I correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so that was the dude. I thought he took off.
No, Ashe didn't leave. Ashe stayed. Ashe was there with us for a long time.
Really?
There was a couple other guys I do remember we kind of gave them that, and yeah, they took off in the middle of the night.
I must have gotten hit in the head a few too many times. I'm like, fuck. I have him in my head as 2 different people.
Well,
okay.
So there was a couple people that had the tattoo, is what you're saying, and Ashe.
No, it might have been him, but I could have had him confused with someone else that left because a lot of people were coming for tryouts. It was like, look, in a way, you could ask, why did Ken hold so many tryouts? The answer is simple. He was charging these motherfuckers a lot of money, and none of them were going to make it. It was like doing Spartan tryouts and getting cash. So, the best one was that fat fuck Canadian that showed up. Yeah, I'm going to fight Gan McGee. And he paid Ken like $15K or something crazy. He was going to be there with us for a couple weeks. Remember, he shows up the first day.
He was a kickboxing champion, yeah.
Yes. The first day we did grappling and we drowned him. And he was like, he left all scarred back to the house. And he tells me, but tomorrow you're all going to be in my world. I'm like, okay. Because the next day we were doing kickboxing. The next day was worse for him. Even
Ken beat him up.
Pete that kicked him to the fucking.
Ken beat him up. Then I beat him up. And then I don't think he was able to stand with anybody else after that. Like he was done.
So I have a lot of memories of a ton of that shit, and a lot of people would come in. Some of them would even make the tryouts, but after they made it, they're like, "Hey, this was great experience, but I gotta go."
Yeah. Hey, Vern, another follow-up for Vegan Hagler here. He's got a series of questions along this vein. So, Guy and Ken, when Ken was in Pride, Guy was like his right-hand man there. Like even during some of his fights, Guy, I think with Sakuraba, Guy walked out with him and they did a bunch of stuff together there. Like, I mean, That should have been you, no?
It should have, but I was still a kid, you know. I was doing things that I probably should not have been doing, but I learned it from Ken, you know. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff that he looked over me and took Guy and all these other people, and once again they wanted Guy over there fighting, and I actually think that I had a better fight with Sakuraba than Guy did.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I didn't get knocked out. So.
You got a better fight than Ken did too.
Let me squeeze one in, Miguel. Let me squeeze one in. Oleg Taktarov.
Good job. Yep.
Is it okay? Did he get beat so bad that he went to the bathroom and started crying?
By Ken?
Anybody?
Ken? So Ken, I remember him and Ken got into it, and then Ken just shut the gym down, and they went at it. So I don't know what could have happened then, but one day, me and him were going at it, and he had a fight coming up, and I remember I was sitting over him about to take an armbar, and he, like, cornholed me, and I looked at him, and I slapped him in the face, and then I took the armbar and tapped him out. So I don't know if maybe that might have been it, but yeah, that pissed me off. I'm like, you just stuck your finger in my backside, dude. What the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, wait. So when Ken shuts the gym down, when him and Oleg have issues, does he literally tell everyone, like, point at the door, get the fuck out? How does that happen?
Get out.
Basically, yeah.
Please.
So,
did you ever witness Oleg Taktarov crying ever at the Lion's Den?
If it did happen, I didn't see it. Like I said, he would, like him and even Mark Coleman, like they shut the gym down and they went at it. Okay. So nobody knows what happened.
Well, no, Ashe Bowman claims to have witnessed that training session. Would that be true or false?
Ashe Bowman came after me. That
I'm
would
talking
be false.
about Shamrock and Coleman.
Okay,
right.
Maybe he was there. He could have snuck back in.
How's that possible? Because Ashe didn't go to the tryouts till we were there, right? That's why I keep thinking it's a separate dude. Ashe Bowman came in to do the tryouts, the guy with the tattoo. Are we talking about that dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was...
He came when I was there. What?
He came then, and then he came with us to Susanville. You had already left.
Did Ken
you were already
Shamrock...
gone. You had your own gym, and Ashe came with us up to Susanville.
I stand corrected.
That's
no
cool.
problem.
That's why we're here. Tone, that's why we're here. Did Ken Shamrock, ever get a takedown on Mark Coleman?
It's a possibility. I don't remember much. Like, I could care less. Ken had his fights, and unless I was actually in there helping them train, because Ken would, like, I'd be teaching classes or I'd be doing something like that while Ken was, like, doing his stuff, you know? And a lot of stuff I just don't remember because I was busy. Like, plus I was doing drugs and drinking alcohol and, like, yeah, I was living the life, man.
You guys are wild, man. You guys.
It was like the OK Corral, but without guns. Like,
hey, but let me along those lines, and I have one Oleg question first. But so the Oleg fight, they fought in UFC, and most people don't feel it was like a war for the ages kind of thing. Did they go harder in the gym? Is that like what's Ken's mentality? Like in the gym,
probably.
It looks like he gave it like he didn't give a shit, but now they're paying him and he lays back. What was going on there?
Well, I know Oleg knew that he could not beat Ken. So the whole thing in the gym was for Oleg to know Ken is gonna bring him into this fight, make him look good, but still beat him. Like, Oleg knew that he could not beat Ken. I had seen some of the training where Oleg would sit back into an Achilles, and then Ken would roll up on him, sit up on him, and like, what are you doing? And he'd slap him, Like, you can't do this. This is not working. You have to do something else. So, but I mean, he because Oleg had a name, he also didn't want to degrade him in front of a whole bunch of people that were nobodies. So Ken at least had that respect for Oleg, but he still was like, dude, do something different. You know, people know you do this. You're not going to get away with it anymore.
Okay, let me just circle back to Mark Coleman. People always talk about Kamaru Usman and about how he has got the ultimate, no one's taking him down, even though Colby Covington did. No one's taking him down. Mark Coleman never got taken down in an MMA fight until he was like 47 years old.
Yeah.
So I called Coleman because people online say, well, Ashe Bowman said he witnessed it. I call Mark. Like, I got Mark's phone number. He came on the show twice. I think we got him again in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I call Mark, and it's just ha, 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 ha. And I was in front of Mark, he probably would have cracked. Like, there's, like, I don't know. It's always a mystery. I guess we'll have to ask Ken. One day we'll
well, I mean, if Ashe said he was there and he saw it, I'm inclined to believe him. I don't think he would lie about it. So he's got nothing to gain by lying about it. So,
okay.
So I got a little bit of a racy question because you guys brought it up in Japan here. So now we got a little bit of a picture of, extracurricular activities going on in California with, a nightclub that Ken enjoyed the life at. You got Tijuana there with access to things and stuff like that. But Vernon, you were talking about, having fun and going crazy in Japan. What like that's gotta? How do you get shit in Japan? Like, what's going on there? Like, what have you seen? How did you do it?
So I was never any of the stuff that I ever did was never with any of the Pancrase fighters that were Japanese. It was always with Boss Rutan or Ken or our guys. We would go to clubs, meet the shadiest people that we could find. I mean, we'd catch some dudes in the bathroom doing lines. We'd see people like, I saw a guy stick a pill in his mouth and kiss this girl. Next thing you know, she's rolling. I'm like, what did he just kiss her and give her? So, and that's how I ended up learning about a bunch of that stuff. So, but yeah, it was, I remember dancing all night, like, and Ken would look at me and the next morning and be like, did you sleep? I'm like, no, I haven't slept, bro. Let's go. I'm ready to get on the plane.
That's why
turned me into
I
a
was
maniac.
telling people about you. That was inhuman. I even at that age, I still could do shit, but not like you. This dude, like, I'd drop out at 1 or 2 a.m. I'd be like, dude, I gotta fucking get some sleep. Vernon would show up from the fucking club. And fucking, you'd still be rolling and beating everybody's ass. It'd be like,
there'd be music playing. Yeah,
dude,
we'd have music playing, and I would be actually wrestling with people to the beat of the music. I remember that.
but yeah, to your question that you were asking about the place, like, for me, and I think for a lot of the guys at that time, the best fucking place, and Ken, this was Ken's also, was Club Rubber. Raves.
Orange County, Club Rubber.
The themed Club Rubber, dude, where we'd all go dressed up as something, fucking rolling out of the best time.
So Tito Ortiz was always there. I got to see Charlie Sheen there once. I saw Ice-T. He was there without Coco.
Smart.
There was a bunch of dudes that I saw there. Like, it was the place to be. And I remember the kid who was putting it on liked Ken. So they would put me in the VIP all the time, and I'd be looking around. It was like the Playboy Mansion. Like, I'm looking at these girls like, wow, I know that chick. That chick's she's a, not Playboy.
Penthouse.
What were they? Huh? No, not Penthouse. Oh my gosh. Here's my wife putting her 2 cents in. What's the Victoria's Secret models? Like, I would see Victoria's Secret models in there. So it was just that place in LA to be. Like, people would pull up in Hummers and they'd have dudes parking their stuff, like Lambos and all kind of stuff. And I'm here like, yeah, I'll get to hang out with people. Like I was scared to take Tony. I thought he might take somebody's, and then I have to end up fighting my way out of it, and then wasn't invited back anymore.
Tony, Mark Kerr showed up over there and rolled with you guys. What's your fondest memories of Mark Kerr?
Dude, my memory of Mark Kerr is basically my interactions with him, and they were all at King of the Cage. And that was the night I went a little nuts, but that's because, I was told they'd be all right because it was kind of pre-planned. But anyway, yeah, Vernon I think was there.
Oh, that
Mark came back and he was hunting for roles, and Vernon didn't have any roles. And then he comes up and he says to me, the best way to try a role is putting it up your ass, because then
that was Mark Kerr.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, I thought you said Coleman for some reason.
No.
Mark Kerr. Talking too. So.
Yeah, right. Mark Kerr. That was my interaction with Kerr.
So you said about putting ecstasy? About putting ecstasy in his butt?
Because he was hunting for those, but we didn't have those at the time. At the fights, all you'd have was like fight-related drugs. It would be like painkillers or anti-inflammatories, a lot of weed.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we were actually talking to him. It was me, Guy, I believe, Trey, and Robbie. We're all in Abu Dhabi. And Mark Kerr's talking about his exploits with him, Rico Rodriguez, and a bunch of other people, and how he was sitting with his finger and this ecstasy pill on his finger, trying to figure out how he was going to shove it in his backside so he could roll harder. And I'm like, what the heck did I get myself into? I didn't know this dude
we grabbed
like
my power cable. Give me 1 second.
At Abu Dhabi, yeah.
So he rolled on ecstasy at Abu Dhabi.
I don't know if he did it before, during, or after, but he was talking about his exploits of putting them in his rectum because it made him roll harder.
Yeah.
Miguel?
That was my introduction to Mark. Soon after that, he had his fall, and then next time I saw him was on that video with all that shit with like the buckets of Nubain needles and
Life in the
bottles,
Cage.
And I was like, fuck. He was a preview of like my life, of where I was going with a lot of my shit too. I'm like, Jesus Christ,
Without the extra money.
Yeah.
Without the extra money.
Yeah, we've had.
Thank God, because I'd be dead probably if I did.
We've had Mark Kerr on, and we covered the first part of his career. We didn't hit like the drug component yet, but.
Oops.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi is pretty intense. Holy shit.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea. That was the who is who of grappling. So, like, the Gracies were there. Like, you name it, those people were there. But nobody ever really screwed around because they were afraid to get taken out into the desert and have their heads cut off.
Who was your roommate, Vern, when you were out there?
Robbie. Unfortunately. Yeah, I have a funny story about Robbie. So he was so hurt after his match that he didn't want to go down and have anyone see him. Oh, I feel bad. Please bring me some food. So me being a nice guy, I'm like, all right, cool. I get some food. I put it in a little tin form. I wrap it up, and it's sitting there on the table. And Jerry Bolander goes, does that fucker want you to chew it up and for him as well? So they all pick his food up, and they start chewing it, and they spit it back in the container. And here I am like, dude, that's wrong. And they're like, just take it to him. You can let him know we did it. Just razz him a little. So here I am against my better judgment, taking this chewed up food up to Robbie. What the fuck? What is this? Is this some kind of joke? I'm like, Robbie, yeah, the guys did this. It was a joke. And then he's like, fuck this. He threw it down, and then he moped on the bed for the rest of the time. Like, he wouldn't even go eat. So, but yeah, I guess he kind of deserved that. I didn't realize he was that much of a baby that he couldn't take a joke.
Hey, Vern, who'd you grapple in Abu Dhabi?
Man, I
have it.
Yeah, I have it written. Yeah, I can't remember. It was two different people. One was a Japanese guy,
Okay, Mike, keep it going. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I think you went 1-1. Yeah, you went 1-1 then.
One was a Japanese guy, and then the other was a Brazilian guy, and I lost to the Brazilian guy.
Yeah, you beat the Japanese guy, and you lost to the Brazilian guy.
Yeah.
Right. What about Odie Neto? Tony, did you remember rolling with him?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that dude. He was my introduction to the Lions. Then that was my first submission tournament. Vernon was supposed to wrestle with him, and someone else was supposed to wrestle Dean. But then who was it? What the fuck was his name? What's his name, Vern? Who quit the fight, didn't want to fight Dean, so then they gave you Dean and they gave me Odie. Eddie Millis.
I don't. Was it Eddy?
Remember now?
From Shark Tank, Eddie Millis.
From Shark Tank. Eddie Millis was supposed to wrestle Dean Lister, which he's lucky he didn't anyway, because that would have been very short. And he dropped out. So then they moved Vernon to wrestle Odie, and then they put me to wrestle. I mean, yeah, they moved Vernon to wrestle Dean, and they put me to wrestle Odie. So I'm not going to say no, because that's why I'm there. If I'm going to learn, I'm going to learn a good lesson. Well, I got armbarred pretty quick. And, Ken's like, you invite him to a fight with punches. He's just like trying to make me feel better. But then that dude ended up posting that fight on YouTube. Like, it was like, look, I just beat Ken Shamrock kind of fucking thing. But, at the time, I was pretty new. And fast forward a few years later, when Ken and I kind of separate and I'm doing my gym and I didn't have a place to teach, and he and I hooked up, and he's like, yeah, come down to my dojo. And in a way, I think he thought he was going to take my students, because I'm bringing him down to his school. At the same time, he wanted to do MMA. I mean, yeah, he wanted to do the UFC, and I had some contacts during that time that I could get fights, and they were looking for a guy at his weight class to do a UFC fight. So at the time, I had just come out of surgery, so I was wearing a knee brace, and the guy that was helping me do a ton of shit was Toby Imada. So long story short, we told Odie, we're gonna make a video. I'm gonna put on boxing gloves, and if you catch me, then I can show him your shit. And then you could go NHB with Toby, and then we can send in a video of you doing your thing. Anyway, he didn't even let me get close enough before he kept throwing himself back into the cockroach. So, and this was all on video. So we spent the first round 3 minutes with him. He'd go back to his back and he'd do the cockroach. I'm like, dude, you gotta do something. So he couldn't do. He didn't want to do any exchanges. He didn't want to get hit. So then he figures he'd do better with Toby because he was going to do MMA with him. And Toby armbarred him in like 15 seconds. So that was the end of that. The guy was not MMA material, obviously. He was good at what he did, which was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a gi, but not at this level of MMA. So it didn't last. But yeah, Toby Imada, dude. There's another dude that came to the den with, I think, high hopes, but he didn't end up being pretty much just – he came in at the wrong time is what I'm trying to say. Because at the time, that's when Ken was at its decline with doing drugs. And Toby was more or less became the person that got some fights here and there, but he was more or less used to help teach class. And yeah, he would have been. I think he was another one that was wasted talent, like Vernon.
Phenomenal athlete. Vern, do you remember Toby Imada?
Yeah, I remember him. I remember him very well. Yeah, we were trying to build him up, and yeah, he ended up leaving and going over to Tony's place, and Ken was very upset about that because that was going to be Ken's new. What's the word?
Yeah, but he wasn't getting shit. He didn't go, but he didn't.
We were trying. Yeah.
He didn't go to my place to fight for me. Here's the thing that blows my mind. You see how right now you brought up that point that he left with me to and Ken got mad. He didn't leave with me he was helping me. because at the time I
Yeah.
was doing a lot of drugs, and he was the only one mentally sane enough to help teach my classes. He literally wasn't there to fight for me. The motherfucker was helping me so I wouldn't lose my school. And if Ken thought he left to fight for me, I'm like, who the fuck am I? Some of these things that Ken thought at the time logically didn't make sense to me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Like I said, in Ken's mind, a lot of things were like, if you weren't for him, you were against him. And someone leaving and going over there to train at your school to Ken was like a slap in the face. So he was like, screw that guy. I don't want nothing else to do with him.
Yeah, that's total George Bush, dude. Where is your testers? Fuck that shit, dude.
I never had any problems with him. He was always a good guy. He partied with us every now and then. He even, if I'm not wrong, I believe he got a job working with us in Feud Alley for a while too. Yeah, I think so. He worked with us at East Feud Alley. So
he was also doing he was also doing the stripper bouncing for Eric.
Yeah.
At whatever that place was as well.
Yeah, I got that.
I don't know what Eric's place was.
Was it Stockton Rocks?
No.
Stockton Rocks. No, Stockton Rocks was a nightclub in Stockton that used to be a cowboy club, because I worked there too. Yeah. But yeah, he wasn't around during Stockton Rocks.
Oh, okay.
No, this was after. This was all Chula Vista and San Diego.
Yeah.
So
he was at East Street Alley.
He ended up training, I think, with Wade more than anybody else. It was because he didn't go with me. He just came to help me out. But I think he just ended up training with Wade. And those
Wade
extremes,
and Rick,
man. That's what I think just fucked it up, because when your mind goes, you start fucking thinking some crazy shit.
Yeah, but he also worked with Rick, because I remember Wade and Rick had a gym that they opened up together. And
really?
Do you remember Rick?
Yeah, Slayton.
The mongrel?
Slayton.
Yeah, Rick Slayton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We interviewed Toby. It was one of our early interviews, and we caught him right after practice. He was so high that the first hour was real difficult, but the last half of the interview was fantastic. But getting him to this planet for a couple of questions was pretty difficult.
I'm glad you were able to get a hold of him then.
Yeah, right. TK and Funaki were Lions Den regulars. What were they like inside the den? Were they protected? Did they roll with everybody, or were they real careful about who they were on the mat with?
TK, you mean
Tyoshi Kosaka.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
so
I'm talking about Funaki.
Yeah.
Is one person, and
Right.
TK, the guy that fought Pete Williams.
Tyoshi Kosaka.
TK that ended up training with Pete Williams and with Maurice Smith.
Trained with you guys, and then he left with Frank and crew, and then ended up fighting Pete Williams.
Yeah, Kosaka.
I remember Funaki being there. Funaki, he was kind of like, his English wasn't that great, so he didn't talk to a lot of people. But we had a lot of kids there that were fans, so he would do his autographs, and he was cordial to people, but he didn't really hang out and talk to people. When it was time to go, he was out. As far as the other guy that was there, I don't remember who that was. I remember Suzuki came with him once, and that was in Lodi, and they stayed somewhere around there. I think they stayed at Ken's house one night or something like that, or I can't remember exactly, but Ken didn't really bring me in on that. But yeah, they came in, we trained, and then they gave me a name, and then left.
Did they mostly train with just Ken, or did they kind of do the round robin around the room as well?
None of us were good enough when they first got there because Pancrase had broke away from Fujiwara Gumi. So none of us, it's like I remember having 3.5 months of training, and Ken's like, "Hey, guess what? You're moving up, bro. You're going to Pancrase." I'm like, "Huh? 3.5 months? Really? You think I'm good enough?" Of course, he said yes. But yeah, my first 2 fights I lost, and then I won my 3rd fight. So, but yeah, in his mind, I was ready, and he was making money, so I don't really think it mattered to him.
Tony, you went to Holland for a minute, correct?
I started out there because I was in the Army, and I actually was stationed in Germany. So I would be going on the weekends. At that time, it was still Holland was hot spot. So you had to get a pass from either command or someone in your unit that had any pull, so that you could go visit your colonists, because they don't want trouble and banging the very, very beautiful hookers. But we did anyway. So at the time, this is how awesome life was. There were no borders. I would be renting a Ford Ka, which was like a fucking shoe car that was like just like the precursor
English
to the little shoe thing they have now, whatever the fuck it's called. Anyway, it would be $19 a day, and basically it was like living in Disneyland. I show up with my military ID, they take it down, like, yeah, here you go, and here's the keys. See you when you get back. So I would take off from Germany to Holland, and get in all kinds of trouble, dude. I would go with other friends that had money in the Army. And yeah, we'd just show up, and I would be looking for steroids and other things. And he was looking for alcohol, because the buddy I took with me was a doctor. He was a captain in the Army. And the dude was a hardcore alcoholic and cocaine addict. So he was like, "You think you can find me some cocaine? I'd pay for the whole trip." I'm like, "Dude, I can find anything." So for sure, got him hooked up when we got there, because you can find drugs anywhere. Very, very easy, especially in Amsterdam.
Wait. Let me get to my question. All right. That was fantastic. Dorian Yates, your buddy, used to own a part of the Dutch brand.
Yeah.
And then he sold
it. He did. But no, he didn't sell it. He had to sell it because the mob strong-armed his ass to sell it. They gave him an offer, but it was a really low-ball offer, and he told them to go eat a bag of dicks. So they were like, "Oh, sure. We don't get the pancake and the waffle." So they sent Ed de Cruz. I don't even know how to fucking pronounce his name. Ed de Cruz. They're one of their top free fighters. And he caught Dorian in a bathroom there at the Grand Prix. And like, it was probably reminiscent of me and Vern with Mark Hall. Some people blocked the door, and here came Ed the Cruz and beat the shit out of Dorian. So yeah, he knocked him the fuck down, and he told him he was lucky that this was such a pleasant exchange, and he better sell. So that was his thing. I think he sold after that. He had told me about it, and I even went over there to Holland to see what was up. But it was crazy, man. It's obviously it's their land and it's their shit. So
Duplessis, I mean, it's how we would say it in Chicago. He fought in early Pride with Dirty Bob Schreiber. I mean, Dirty Bob Schreiber was cornering him, I believe. Am I correct? Am I in the ballpark there?
I think you're talking about the Ed guy.
He's dead now, right? He got murdered?
Really?
I'm like 90% sure. I'm coming from. You got to remember, dude, you're throwing names
I know
at
you.
me.
Hey, you have a lot more like current information. My shit stopped back in the 90s when I left, man.
You guys throw names at me. I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm going from memory. I believe he's an early Pride guy.
I think you're probably right because they were getting a lot of free fighters from Holland to go do.
Yeah, I'm almost positive that he didn't see 40. Anyway,
but yeah, they strong armed Dorian. Dorian's not a fighter, dude. He was like just fucking sold it, and that was the end of that shit.
Vern, you had an early pre-UFC rivalry with Chuck Liddell. Where did it start? Like, how did you guys just start butting heads?
Well, Chuck was supposed to fight Ken. And Chuck actually had the nerve to say, well, Vern, he's been in these smaller organizations, and he's been doing well there, and he thinks he's going to come over here and make a name for himself. And I remember thinking to myself, you dumb bastard, you went to some of the same small places that I did, so how can you sit there and talk trash? So, yeah, and that's where I got really upset, and I was like, yeah, let's get this done. So, and what a lot of people don't know, because what a lot of people have been shielded from, is that my fight with Chuck, he would punch like this. So his finger went into my eye, and it went down and inside my eye, and it broke out the little thin bones down inside the eye socket. And I still have the MRIs to prove it, because there was no damage here in the front. It was all back in the socket. And so we started calling him the Eyes Man after that. And because he did it to like 5 people. And so he was no longer the Ice Man. He was the Eyes Man.
¿Será mi zapato? Que me quito los zapatos.
Why is there so much silence?
You guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
There's a eerie moment of silence there, buddy.
I've been banned.
Yeah, we're back here. It looks like Mike's on mute, but we're back, and I appreciate it. It looks like we had a little bit of a weak connection, but we're still going strong. Mike,
There we go. Sorry about that,
over.
guys.
Yep.
So
That's right.
Chuck Liddell, he did have a funky punch. He definitely did.
Yeah. And I watched after he started doing that, then Forrest Griffin started doing it. And like Forrest would actually open his hand and like act like he was pushing people's faces back, but he would eye gouge them. So yeah, Chuck started a whole bunch of people to doing that kind of crap. So, and my wife still hates him to this day because of that. And I offered to fight him again. And he said, sure. He was high. Like I remember walking up to him. He was in the front row at one of the fights. I think it was one of Ken and Tito's fights. I said, Chuck, I'd like a chance to fight you again. He said, sure, let's get it done. So UFC said, okay, that's fine. We'll do it for $4,000. It's like, wait a minute. We fought I got 4,000. Actually, I only got 3,000 because I had to borrow 1,000
Unbelievable.
of that 3,000 to pay my rent. Otherwise, I was going to get kicked out of my apartment. So I ended up getting $3,000 plus an extra $200 because we got fight of the night. So, yeah, that's how I was treated there.
Vern, inside the cage, outside the cage, what's your favorite Lions Den moment?
My favorite Lions Den moment. The night that Frank and I were up in, where was it? It was close to Canada when Tank's guys came out and Frank mopped the floor with that dude. That's my favorite Lions Den moment because here's this dude like 6'4", 6'5", one of Tank's henchmen. And Ken and Tank had been talking all this trash, and then Ken's brother, not even real brother, beats Tank's right-hand man out in the street like a little rag doll. That was beautiful.
Tony, what's your favorite, buddy?
Oh, man, you've asked me this before, but, it all depends on what mental state I'm in. If it would be in the fighting sense, it would have had to have been Mount Pleasant. Everything about that trip was, like, magical for me anyway, just because it was just fun as hell. And after I got to knock out this dude, both my bros.
Michigan.
Yeah,
Michigan.
In Michigan, yeah. But after I knocked out that big fucking dude, because he outweighed me by like 30 34 pounds. The only reason I ended up fighting the dude was because at that time my opponent backed out and his didn't show up. And then that's when Terry asked me, he goes, hey, would you mind fighting him? And I was like, no. And I'm sure he didn't say this, but Terry came back and he said, we asked him and they said, oh, you're a midget. He doesn't want to fucking fight a midget and look, because it would look bad for him. I was like, what?
Yeah, we started that.
Sure as fuck.
We started that to piss you off.
Dude. Huh?
We started that to piss you off.
Yeah,
we knew, knew that
because
you would fight harder. Yeah, we knew you'd fight harder if you were pissed off. You're like the whole.
Anyway. So yeah, that happened to be one of probably my favorite moments, man. That fight, and again, the fact that both Pete and Vernon went out there and kicked ass. Pete did it he did that super quick fight.
Yeah. So my fastest fight was 9 seconds. Then Pete
that was
came
awesome.
and beat me.
That was my favorite night. We had a fucking blast, dude.
So Pete beat me at 8 seconds. Then you went and beat Pete at 6 seconds. And I'm like, these bastards, they beat my friend. at least we're on the same team.
Yeah, that was a great night. The craziest night was fighting at that fucking Wet and Wild. And I was the first one up. And Ken's all, you got to go forward, forward, forward. It was like fighting on a fucking treadmill. You were just like, you couldn't really move. And after my fight was over, Ken goes back and he's telling everyone, defense, don't go forward, stay by the cage. It's like, thanks, man. I was the guinea pig.
That was the night that Pride. Yeah, that was the night that Pride, Dream Stage Entertainment, actually started working with King of the Cage. That was one of the first fights.
That's the night Sakuraba was there, and he brought his fighter. Yeah, and that fought Alex, and Alex knocked him out.
Yeah, because I wanted to fight on that card because all you guys were on it, and they said no, you're fighting on the next card. They wouldn't let me fight.
Yeah, you're lucky you didn't fight in that card, dude. Seriously, that card.
There's a lot of people that took losses. There's a lot of people who took losses that night and they wouldn't.
Yeah, but none of them would have lost in a regular fucking setting.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? There was no grit. It was like, who would have fucking kicked ass? A fucking octopus. Fucking. That would have been like their environment. It was so slippery, dude.
Yeah.
You couldn't do shit. After the fight, everyone comes up to me and goes, next time, put your foot on the cage and launch off of it. I'm like, next time, when do you think I'm going to fight in the fucking rain again, you dumb fucker? No.
Yeah, like you're doing curling.
That was the last motherfucking time I'm fighting in the rain.
It's like curling in the Olympics. You slide across the ice and slide the rock.
Right.
Well, you guys mentioned Tank Abbott. Tony, did you ever have any interactions with Tank or his crew?
No.
I couldn't imagine that would go well.
No, man. I didn't have many interactions with a lot of people. A lot of people like me. I was a very likable guy.
Vernon, how about you? Because when you were in Abu Dhabi, you would have run into
Eddy Ruiz,
a couple of his henchmen, Eddy Ruiz and Tony, the guy that Gary Goodrich obliterated.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, most people really. I'm not saying that I'm the toughest guy in the world, but everybody knew if they got into a fight with me, and people said that they're like, one person that I don't want to fight is Vernon Tiger White. And so even when I would go places, I respected because I would fight anybody. I didn't care. I was just one of those guys. And so people respected me. And so, I mean, I remember seeing some of the Gracies, hey, Tiger White. And I'd shake hands with some of them. Some of them didn't like me, so I wouldn't shake hands with them. But yeah, I've never really been shunned by anybody.
Dude,
what about Tank? Wait 1 second, Tony. Why did Tank and Ken never fight?
Because he was calling, Actually,
Probably
I
money.
think the only reason, it was money, and Ken would be hurt or Tank would be hurt, or they'd have a fight coming up. And then Ken was like, screw this, let's meet somewhere and just fight. And then Tank was like, yeah, there's no money in it. So then it never happened. So what I remember, Ken was like, I will fight you in the back alley. Let's do this, no rules. I will fight you in the back alley. And it never happened.
Tank was a little bit afraid of Ken?
I think so. Because Tank, I don't think Tank was able to, he wouldn't have been able to stop Ken from taking him down. He's got good hands, good heavy hands.
Heavy hands.
But there's no way he could have stopped Ken from taking him down. And I think Ken would have probably, Big John would have had to like pry Ken's hands off of his throat. Like, I don't think Ken wanted to eye gouge him and like stick his fingers in his eye sockets and play with his brain. That's how much Ken hated him. Like, and he called him glam rock, said he was overrated. And so Ken wanted to show him how much he was not overrated.
He's the one guy that talked trash about Ken in Ken's weight class that kind of got away with it. And I mean, get away with it like Tito did it too, but they at least fought. Like Ken would fight Tito 100 times. I mean, it's just that's how Ken is. I think that's one of those fights that we were robbed of. Yeah. Someone asked me if I'd fight Tank. They're like, hey, would you come back and fight Tank in an old man match? Yes. Well, like, what do I have to lose? It's Tank Abbott. Like, I would kick him in his face until he stopped moving. What are you talking about? I can still get my leg up high enough. Especially for that guy.
Tank actually, I think, had a kidney removed, or like he had some major surgery at some point, so he's out of whack. But I get what you mean there. So let me take
all those drugs and stuff.
Wait. Side note, Miguel, before you get your question, I sent Tank a message. Tank does artwork. I attempted to buy artwork from Tank, and he didn't respond to me. So my feelings are hurt. Sorry, Miguel. Go ahead, buddy.
There's probably pictures of what he would have done to Ken, huh?
Hey, I got a question for you, Bert. I know we talked about it in our other interview where, you think Ken had enough of mental edge and seniority and stuff over Frank that, he always dominated it. But how do you think that fight would go if they were both at their peak? Because Frank, most people think Frank, surpassed Ken at some point.
Not mentally, dude. That's like a father mental thing where that's why there's a lot of people that would have a block with the person that made them who they were.
Right.
Just,
and you
know what I mean? Like me and Zach yeah.
So Ken would just put Frank on his back and Frank he'd turtle up. Like he had no way of stopping Ken from doing what he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it. There was no way, especially when Ken was superhuman. Like,
right.
There's no freaking way. Like, he would grab you and you'd go to block. He would move your hand and hit you. It's like Frank was not as strong as everyone thought he was, but he was stronger than the average person.
I think Frank performed better than when than what he was in the gym. Is always one of those guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Frank's a legend. Frank's a legend.
He's definitely that. But yeah, I guess I have seen him at his weakest. But I would never see him overcoming Ken. And maybe now because Ken's beat up, he can't lift his hands up over his head. And Frank would probably beat him now. But I don't like back in the day. No.
Yeah, back in the day, shit is different than, people fighting at an old age and you beat a guy that used to be a legend and you tell everyone, I just beat so-and-so. Saying, no, you beat you beat the former person. You didn't beat the guy because that guy doesn't exist anymore. And one guy I wanted to bring up before anything else, because I know time flies, is one person I wish I would have seen fight was this kid we had at the gym, bro, at the Lions Den, who was a fucking prodigy of leg-breaking capacity with his Achilles, and his name was Ray Silva.
Silva.
This kid was like
Rain Man.
Oh, dude, this kid, his leg taken.
I broke 300 legs. 300 legs, yeah. 400 legs.
Bro, but it was, you know what? He earned it. The dude was, imagine the Tasmanian devil grabbing your leg and going, and ends up in like the craziest fucking position. And you're just like, the most intense pain comes over you where you're like, I need to tap because this bitch is embarrassing me to the point of no return. And he was really, really good, man. He caught Guy Mezger. Guy got pissed off when he tapped him.
Oh yeah.
He was like, fuck. He yelled at him, fuck. And Ray's all, I'm sorry, did I do something wrong? And we were like, oh my God, dude. Yeah.
I remember Ray also was this kind of guy. If you would hit him, he would smile and then take you down and go for a leg. He was unchanged and unwavering, even when he was in pain. I'm getting that leg. I don't care what you say or do to me. I don't care if you're trying to gouge my eye out. I'm going for the leg.
Yes, just pray that he doesn't.
Where did he just learn his skill just practicing, or did somebody?
I would work with Ray for hours. Yeah. I worked with that kid for hours sometimes because he wanted to learn from me. Like he even told me, even after like years, he was like, you know what, you're my favorite fighter there. You never treated anybody wrong. You were always good to people. And he said I was like his idol even more than Ken because I took the time to train him.
Dude, I told Ray to start practicing when he got home, breaking broomsticks. When he could break a broomstick because it's got no weak spots. With the Achilles, he'd be ready. And he ended up bringing a one that he broke, and he was all fucking stoked about it. I to this day don't know if that was him, but his Achilles was really crazy, man.
Yeah.
He did it better than anyone else there.
And he would wear shorts like Oleg because he also respected Oleg. And so he would wear shorts just like Oleg, and like he moved like him. But he ended up being better than Oleg after Oleg was gone and past his prime.
So you want to know what happened to Ray? You want to know what happened to Ray?
No,
man?
They never did. No.
We ended up going to the fights in Atlantic City, and Ken's rat fuck friend, Tony Martinez, who was the boxing promoter that set it all up. They had him and his buddies up there had already set everything up. They ended up saying Ray had hepatitis C, and that I couldn't fight because of my blood pressure bullshit. So from that day on,
that's how what's his face got to fight. That's how
Baroni.
What was his name? Yeah, Phil Baroni. He got your fight.
He got my fight
because of that.
So, but check this out. The moment this happened, all the guys from the Lions Den team started treating Ray like he had fucking leprosy or AIDS or fucking something contagious, dude. And they made that motherfucker so bad that he never wanted to fight again. He came home thinking he did have hepatitis C. His parents ended up taking him to the hospital to get tested. He came back. He didn't come back to the dojo for 2 weeks until he had the paperwork from the hospital saying he didn't have hepatitis C. And then he came back to like throw it in everybody's face. And then he didn't come back for periodic. He was never the same anymore. There was a lot of this bullshit that in my eyes shouldn't have fucking happened. But
so
I thought I had.
Go ahead.
I thought I had the poster from that fight, but I don't.
Let me set the table on that a little bit better. So some mobsters from New Jersey were doing an MMA event. Tony, you were advertised. Oh, there's the poster. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
not that poster, but this is some of the stuff. This is in Japan with Ken Fujita, I believe it was.
Yeah, that is Ken and Fujita fight.
Yeah, and Robbie standing next to him. Freaking guy.
So the promoters wanted to change the card up a little bit, so they made some stuff up about both you, Tony, and this kid.
Correct.
Can't change that kid's life.
Because
that sucks.
they probably had the fight set up a certain way to make the outcomes be as they wanted them. And I can tell you right now, it didn't matter who the fuck you would have given Ray to fight. That motherfucker would have ended up with a broken leg.
Yeah, because he was angry.
Wow.
He was very angry.
Wow. All right. Matt Hume, Ken Shamrock. I just watched it the other day. Hippo eyes. Big, giant hippo eyes. Well, I can express my reaction to that.
Ken showed me that fight when I joined the den because he wanted me he wanted me to see what carrying someone was, because that's the word. He said he carried Matt Hume for 2 or I don't know how many minutes because they paid him, and Funaki and Suzuki wanted that fight to last because the audience wanted to see a showcase of his talent. And he's throwing that motherfucker around, doing Olympic suplexes and just like throwing him like a tiger with, a tiny little person that falls into the cage. But it was pretty nutty, yeah.
So it's kind of a work. Is that what we're going with?
No, it wasn't a work. They asked him to carry him, meaning don't submit him right away. You gotta, they want to milk it for their money's worth. They told Ken, make it last. Don't. It's almost like
it's a filler, basically.
In the movie Snatch, when they're like, Mick's like fucking, just make it last, Mick. And he made it last as long as he wanted to, and then he submitted him. But it wasn't like at any moment that fight was a fight.
Yeah. I think Matt pissed him off. I think he said like he hit him or went for something and almost got it. And then he was like, I got to put this guy away.
Yeah, no, but he told me they asked him not to submit him right away. They asked him to carry him to make it last, please, because they knew he would probably take him out like that.
It's interesting. Vern, you were at the Rich Franklin Ken Shamrock fight.
Rich Franklin. That was the guy who everyone said he looked like. What's his name?
Jim Carrey,
the comedian.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, everyone said he looked like Jim Carrey. So I don't know what happened to Ken in that fight. I think he was mentally just beat up and tired and done, because there's no reason why he should have lost to Rich Franklin, except for the fact that Rich had better stamina, was younger. Other than that, I had watched Ken just rip people apart. And but that fight, it wasn't him. I think he did slip. He slipped on one of those decals in the middle of the ring and hurt his leg. And I think that also took some of the fire out of him.
I think people look at that and they say, oh, it's Ken doing a worked fight, except like I didn't know what you had just said. He slipped on a decal probably at the same time. That's interesting. Yeah, I've never heard anybody kind of make that argument.
Now, this should be a wake-up call for Ken, because the UFC at this point has him on the TV show opposite Franklin and opposite Tito. Like they were giving him chances to be a big star again, and it seems like he kept burning the candle at both ends.
That way, I don't see it that way. I think they were just using Ken for as long as they could to make money on him.
Wait. We got him.
They were using Ken to build those guys up.
Okay.
One person's got to talk at a time, otherwise it sounds like soup. Okay. So you thought they were using Ken. Were they paying him good?
He was actually supposed to take me as the striking coach, but instead he ended up taking Dan Freeman, and I don't know why. So I have nothing good to say about that whole situation, because I was going to be getting paid to be there. So I'm a little sour about it. So, but then again, he also really was very hands-off with the guys, from what I understand. He wasn't there for that team. he was there to get his fight.
That's interesting.
Everyone even said it. Like, Ken is not, and he actually said they edited the video to make me look like an asshole. They didn't have to edit very much, Ken, because everyone knew you were not there to make friends. You were not there to build a team.
Yep. Now, I'll take you back a little bit too, because I think I saw a time that he did take you as his right-hand man over to WWE. Did you have a shoot fight with Ken himself in WWE as a try? Like, talk about that experience.
So I wasn't even brought as like a right-hand man. I was brought as the sacrificial lamb to start his WWF career. So a lot of the guys, they thought he was too stiff and they didn't want to work with him. So they wanted to see him work with somebody and see his style, if he was going to hurt somebody or not. And yeah, he sliced my forehead open and I got 9 stitches because of him, because I think he got he's in the lights and he's all into the Ken Shamrock thing and sliced me open. And I'm like, damn, I've got to go to the hospital. Like, I was in the back and like Mankind walks up to me. He's like, hey, brother, that's awesome. Bleeding for the cause. And I'm looking at him like, what? I got to get stitches. This ain't fun.
Yeah, Vinnie Mac better have insurance.
Exactly. I got $5,000 for that, a T-shirt and a hat. And then I didn't even get to meet any people. Like, I was in the hospital for most of that time, and then they brought me back. I had to go to sleep, and they even said, don't go to sleep past 12 o'clock. We're afraid you might, something bad might happen. I'm like, it's a cut. I'm going to bed. Bye. Like, and I heard they took Ken out to eat. Like, he got to have steak and lobster and all this stuff and hang out with the pro wrestlers, and here I am with stitches looking like Black Frankenstein in my hotel room.
You know what, though? Dude, you did it, man.
Yeah.
Vern, if you look at your career, you got some crazy shit. K1 Pro Wrestling, ADCC, UFC. You fought at the pinnacle of all of those events.
Pride.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, well, UFC Pride. So, yeah. I mean, it's like you've made you fought the best at all of, I mean, you've made it, dude. You made it. Very few athletes could ever say they fought professionally under different rule sets at the highest level in 4 different types of sports.
Yeah, I've told people I fought on every major continent, actually. So awesome. I feel good about that. Got to meet a lot of people. That was fun.
So let me ask you, who's the most technical guy you fought? Like the guy you were impressed, like, holy mackerel, that guy was different.
Vladimir Matyushenko, our first fight. I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I'm going to beat this guy. So they're like, hey, let's go ring card girl. Let's go look for ring card girls. So here I am out hanging out with these guys, drinking out till like 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing that I've got to fight Vladimir Matyushenko the next day. I'm like, yeah, he's just a wrestler. I don't think it'll be a big deal. So, and we're in Louisiana. So I'm like, it was right after, I believe, Mardi Gras, or there was some kind of big thing happening because the streets were packed. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, this fight's going to be over quick. I'm going to beat him. And no, I got my butt kicked for like 7 minutes. And I remember him, like, he hit me so hard under my eye. I remember like going, what the hell did he hit me with? I didn't know if it was an elbow or punch. Going back, looking at the fight later, it was a punch. And yeah, that fight was an eye opener and closer all at the same time. And I just remember thinking, I want to fight this dude again, and this time is going to be different. So the second time we fought, it was IFC. Both of them were IFC, and he was the champion. And then I ended up taking the belt from him on our second fight, and I remember being in the parking lot with him, and we were walking through the parking lot, and I was like, dude, look what you did to my face. He's like, don't talk to me like I'm a bitch. Look what you did to my face. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we had Vlad on for an interview, and the way his story of defecting from Russia is friggin' insane. Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
Tony, you guys used to have different gyms, come into Lions Den and roll with you guys. You mentioned Eddie Millis earlier with Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Those guys used to come with you guys quite often, am I correct?
Yes, quite often.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have a story about Eddie when he's done.
Listen. Before you say anything else, I want to say this. And Vern, Eddie would bring guys, but he would bring them to the slaughter. He never rolled with us. He only warmed up, and then he'd be like, "Here you go," and then he'd go hang out and watch us beat the fuck out of every one of his dudes. But he himself, he was like a legend. And that's why, to me, I will always remember him as much, because not only did he do that when he came, but he also did it at his fight. He was, instead of fighting himself, he was like, "Here you go, Vernon. You take him." It's like, fuck. And that was the day I learned that Vernon, his head is a human helmet, because Dean put him on a wizard, and Vern hit the pavement on the mat head first. And it didn't do shit to him. He got up, and I thought, fuck, this dude's Michael Myers. It's like, he's unkillable.
Eddie Millis.
So Eddie came in one night, and this is why he never rolled with anybody anymore. Because the first night he went with Ken put him in a side choke, and his neck popped. And I remember he was on the ground, it like kicking, and like his arms are flailing, and he's like, "Oh my God, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my arms." And Ken goes, "Dude, you're moving them. Knock it off." And he embarrassed Eddie in front of everybody in the gym. And after that, Eddie never came back to the gym to spar with anybody ever again. But I just remember him like, "Oh my God, I can't feel my legs. My neck. And I'm like, dude, knock it off. Yeah, you look bad right now.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want Ken squeezing me either.
We had to do it. It was like, I remember we had to do it all the damn time. I'm like, "Eddie, it's one time. It's one pop. You're driving home. You're fine."
Who else used to come and roll with you guys? I knew they did.
Yeah, we had a bunch of people. We would have dudes come out of nowhere. And like the dude from Canada who was a kickboxer, we had him. He came in. Who was it? I think we talked about him last time. The one black dude that was said he fought Frank Dukes. I forgot his name. Do you remember that dude's name, Tony? The one who said he fought Frank Dukes and beat him?
No, but I do remember when this Aryan white supremacist came in and he wanted to fight Ken, and you're like, "Well, first you got to fight me." And you got him first. He had to sign the waiver, and as soon as he signed the waiver, he started feeling like he reads it, and he goes, "Hey, why does this say death in case of death?" And Vern's all, "Because anything can happen." And the guy goes, "Okay." He goes, "Well, if you don't want to fight, you don't have to fight. Just leave." The guy signed it. And then Vern goes, "You have to wear this headgear." The guy, "I don't want to wear the headgear." Dude, he puts everything on him. Vern's got this look on his face like he's about to eat a giant steak. And the dude stops. He goes, "You know what? I made a giant mistake." He takes off everything and he leaves. That was the one time. Then you had the other black dude that came in. Maybe this is the one you're talking about. He wanted to fight, and you kicked him one time, and it was like reality set in, and he was like, whoa. And that was the end of that one, too. We had a lot of people come in, not a lot of them that you were thinking of the famous sense, but those were memorable because it was like bully beatdown before bully beatdown existed.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about Homer. Homer actually came in. Yeah, Homer Moore.
I think you're
Yeah. Now, yes.
Yeah.
Wait, Homer Moore is a 50 Fight Club member, very talented wrestler.
Yes.
From, I want to say, either Ohio or Indiana.
Very flagrant. Yes.
Yeah, Vernon, I think the Frank Dukes guy is Zane Frazier, if I'm not mistaken.
Zane Frazier, yes, that was him. Yeah. Yeah, he came in. He had a huge attitude on him, and Ken had us fight. And I remember he actually did that whole finger in the eye thing, and I remember looking at him like, did you just really do that? And after that, I took him down, and it was on. He was kind of like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm supposed to be fighting soon. And it's like, yeah, you don't eye gouge people. You don't get to come here and eye gouge people talking about who you beat and somebody that I actually have respect for. And yeah, and I just remember putting him on the ground and just giving it to him over and over again. Like, it was bad for him. And then I ended up, we both went to the Australasian UFC. Him and I were supposed to fight first.
Wow.
He backed out. He put me on the other end of the bracket. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. So they put us on opposite ends of the bracket. So, and then he got what he wanted, but then he ended up losing. And I ended up fighting everybody up to Mario Sperry. So I think he knew what was coming. Because I wanted him bad. Like, Ken was like, don't hurt him, but he still let me give it to him.
All right. Did Homer Moore ever train over at the Lion's Den?
He did. He had a fight that was coming up in Arizona. And so he stayed in a hotel, and Ken had me train him. Like, while we were training him, it was like this kid had never had a really hard training camp. Because he came in, he's puffed up, so you know he's on roids. His stamina was crap. His attitude was, I don't want to do that. And I'm looking at him like, what do you mean you don't want to do that? This is not your gym. You came here to learn something. Get in there and freaking learn something. But he ended up losing his fight, and it wasn't because we weren't working him hard enough. It was because this dude would go out every night and then come back wearing a pink cowboy hat with girls. I'm like, what are you doing? If this is how your training camp is, don't ever come back here. We don't train like this. I was lying, but we just didn't wear the cap. We didn't wear the cowboy hats, but we were also, our stamina was way better than his. Everything that we did, we pushed ourselves to the limit, while this guy was just puffed up. And then then you're gonna say that you trained at the Lions Den and you're gonna go out here and you're gonna lose like this. We can't have that. And he actually ended up being on a different IFL team. I thought I was going to get to fight him so we could put all this crap to bed. And it ended up, I think he dropped weight classes, so we never ended up fighting.
Yeah, he had a good takedown, and he would just stall. He would take you down and stall. That's kind of...
the laying frame.
All right, so the California scene, when you guys were coming up, and I don't know, we're about 90 minutes right now. So, Miguel, if there's any questions from, the people that are watching, have a purpose, we're winding up right now. So the California scene there was a lot of almost like cartoon characters, and Ken obviously being one of them. Tony being another one, but there was also Joe Son and Kimo. Did you guys ever deal with those two guys? I mean, Kimo was a traveling preacher.
I got to hang out with Kimo later on, and we actually became kind of friends. And I actually got him like an interview for this because some of my friends were into movies and stuff. And I don't know, I think it never went through. But like he's like, thanks for looking out for your old buddy Kimo. And then I never talked to him again, so I don't know what happened to him. But Joe Son, that guy, man, after I heard about what he did and how he treated people, I was like, yeah, I will never hang out with that dude. Then I heard he went to prison and now he's dead or something like that.
No, I think he killed.
What was his reputation like regionally?
My son's here, so I'm going to spell it. He was a DICK. from what I understand.
Okay.
Joe Son.
Okay.
He had this, and especially after that movie, when he got into the movie with
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers, yeah. Who
Because-
throws a shoe? Really? Honestly.
Vernon, let me ask you, in terms of like legendary Brazilian opponents from the early days. I mean, you fought Sperry, Rizzo, Goes. Rate those three for us.
So Sperry, he was the best ground technician. Rizzo had the heaviest leg kicks I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember after that fight being, my legs were so stiff I couldn't bend them. And I remember being, we were at Maksud Plaza, and I remember Shakira had come through, and I went to go meet Shakira, and think it was her promoter. He actually brought CDs in, and he gave me a signed CD of Shakira's before she got big and came over here. And what was the other name?
Alan Goes.
Alan Goes.
So Alan Goes, loudmouth, strong, but I made him look like a fool because I remember him sitting on my chest trying to punch me in the face. Like it was I remember the whole fight, he's laying and praying and then working and moving around and trying to make it look like he's doing something. And then the last 10 seconds of the match, he sits up and tries to punch me. I remember doing this, and he missed every punch for those last 10 seconds, and the crowd was laughing at him. So Alan, not even in the top 10. Huh?
Doesn't he have a gym in California right now?
I don't know. I never kept in contact. He was very cocky, very harsh and brash. He was just one of those guys. He would talk trash, and it's I've met some Brazilian fighters. They're awesome dudes. If I saw him today, I'd walk up and give him a hug because they're awesome guys. But Alan, he just talked trash, and he had to me, in my mind, he didn't have the right to talk trash.
I got you. I'm gonna ask you one follow up on that. I found your Abu Dhabi opponent, and the Brazilian was Saulo Ribeiro. Compare Saulo to Mario Sperry.
Mario was more aggressive. Saulo was like a lay and pray, he was like a, how could I say?
Yeah, once you got the points, he stalled.
Yeah, like a boa constrictor, but he's trying to be 2-3 steps ahead of you, and he's holding on to you, waiting for you to make a mistake so he could grab you. As to where Mario's punch, move, and I'm also punching him. They called our fight the War on the Floor because we showcased our talents. And I still have one of the magazines, and people were very impressed, more so with my skills, because Mario was already established as a black belt jiu-jitsu guy. And then here I come just from Ken and all of our guys, and I'm not letting him do anything to me, and I'm getting off the floor. This black belt, this Carlson Gracie black belt couldn't handle this little squirrely black kid. So, and that's basically what they were like. Who is this kid? Why is he able to do this to Mario? And Mario, he took care of everybody else, but he couldn't take care of this guy.
Yeah, Mario
had him in the mind.
One of the all-time greats for ADCC, that's for sure.
And the Japanese guy that you beat was Daiju Takase in Abu Dhabi. And Takase submitted, I think, none other than Anderson Silva. So I think he was probably too small for you. What do you remember of that fight?
I just remember, I was stronger than him. He was trying to go for Kimuras and arm bars and stuff, but I would just power through him. I remember him. He was really funny built. He had a big upper body and a skinny lower body, and I think I even picked him up and threw him off of me once. And if I'm remembering correctly, he was trying to grab me, and I picked him up, and then I shucked him down back onto the ground and just started moving around. And a bunch of times I sat there and I just smothered him, just because he's going for the Kimura so much, I just put my hands on his hips so he couldn't go anywhere. And I remember everyone screaming, "Move, move!" And I'm looking at him like, no. I mean, if he can't take my arm, why do I need to go somewhere, and put myself in a bad position because he can't get my arm? And that was kind of the same thing with, I think Saulo was actually at the meet when I went against Dean Lister. And Saulo and some other people, they were telling Ken, hey, tell your guy to move, because Dean was sitting on me, and I was just hugging him. And there was nothing he could do about it because I was so much stronger than he was at that time. So,
Cool.
All right. Let me throw some names at you guys. Ted Williams from Gladiator Challenge. Tony, what was his reputation? How was your dealings with him?
You talking about Ted, the promoter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was okay. I didn't have much dealings with him because at the time I was still under Ken. So any fights that I did with what's it called? He was actually my last fight at his event at Gladiator Challenge. That was my last Lions Den fight, ironically, because that's when I tore my ACL. And once you broken like a bad break for a toy, Ken's like, yeah, we got to go shop for a new one. So I was like fucking done, dude. I remember he was when we got to that fight, I was like still this knockout artist. You go do your thing, Tony. It's like, eee! And literally once my leg went kaput, Ken was like, oh shit. In his mind, he's already like, I got to sell this fucking car now, and I'm not even going to get half the fucking money I put into it. So, yeah, I couldn't get out of the fucking cage. And Dan Freeman was there. I'm like, Dan, help me. And Ken's all, no, let him get out on his own. That still stayed in my head because I was like, how the fuck am I going to walk? My leg was fucking doing that shit. So, yeah, I knew in that moment that I was no longer needed. It was your services here will no longer be required. So
Kid was cold like that.
So yeah, that's my memory of Ted Williams is actually linked to that memory of Ken.
What about you, Vern? How was your experience with Ted Williams?
I never really had any dealings with him. He would talk to us. He came and ate with us one time, but he was never like Terry. Terry actually would talk to you and want to know what's going on in your life. Yeah, like he was a cool guy, and so was Ted. Ted, who actually also did what was the name of his show? He
Gladiator Challenge.
Brought me down, huh?
Gladiator Challenge.
Yeah. Ted was like the producer, he was a producer for Gladiator Challenge and for King of the Cage, because he did Brentwood Entertainment. So and Ted, he was cool. Ted was like Tom Cruise and James Bond mixed together. That's how cool he was. Mm-hmm. I would always go talk to that guy and try to pick his brain and try to hang out with him because I thought he was he dressed better than Terry. That's how but as far as Ted Williams, no. I never really hung out with that guy. So, but I remember one night we were at this show and this girl was flirting with Ashe. And I'm like, dude, Ashe, the girl's going to the bathroom. She's going to the bathroom for you, buddy. Go get her. So for Ashe, he goes into the bathroom and he's like, hey, Vern, that girl was giving Ted a blowjob. I was like, oops, sorry, buddy.
Good for Ted. I got a question, blast from the past. One guy who said he knew Ken and actually got kneed in the face by Mark Kerr in the UFC was a guy named Ranger Stott. Do you remember Ranger Stott's drive-by at the Lions?
I remember that fight.
refresh my memory, Tony.
He's that military dude. He literally came in hot. Mark Kerr took him down and threw a couple knees to him, and the dude quit. It was like,
that's why I don't remember then. Yeah, it wasn't enough to make a memory.
No, he was. That was back when Mark was that peak smashing machine.
Mark,
so there were not that many people that would have lasted underneath him anyway.
Yeah, he was a beast. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember the guy, but I remember Mark Kerr, just like he would get a hold of people and they would scream in terror because he's holding on to them.
This Ranger guy came in talking big about military and, he's a Ranger and all this shit. And then Mark just like ran over him.
Yeah.
So,
he was like a silverback gorilla too. Him and Mark Coleman, those are the two guys that people.
You're missing one.
Oh yeah,
you're missing Randleman, dude. The mini gorilla. Yeah. That to me. He had the best takedowns of all of them. I used to love that dude. You know what? My
vertical like 72 inches.
That my fondest memory of him was we were at a hotel and he was getting ready to fight. That was the day where Jerry and I went to try and calm drunk Mark Coleman down. But Randleman had to make weight. And we didn't know he was in the sauna. And we were walking by the sauna and he jumps to the window and he's all, help! He saw the door. They locked me in here. It wasn't true, but that dude was like a fucking walking comedy show, dude.
Yeah.
What about Eddie Bravo?
Eddie Bravo. He was always like him and Joe Rogan. They always would have positive things to say about me. So I've never had any negative interactions with either one of them. And I remember us being on a bus in Japan for one of Ken's fights, and I'm sitting next to Rampage and frickin' Joe Rogan and like a whole bunch of guys, and I'm like, dude, this is the life. And I just remember hanging out with those guys, and Joe Rogan is telling me how good of a fighter I am and how he doesn't like Ken, and Ken takes too many steroids and all this stuff, and I'm like, holy crap. So yeah, like I've had good dealings with a lot of people that don't like people that I've even hung out with, and I don't know why. I guess it's probably because I really didn't talk a lot of trash. I would listen to people and be happy I was there and in the moment.
Tony, did you ever deal with Eddie Bravo locally?
My dealings with Eddie were very short because he was commentating at the time for King of the Cage, and yeah, he was. I guess not. I don't really have anything to say. It was just a cordial, I knew who he was and he knew who I was from the fights. But no, I didn't hang out with him no, nothing to say.
Yeah, Vern, in regards to yourself and your reputation, all you guys got to look at the Pancrase interview we did with you. We got about 100 comments. The overwhelming majority are talking about your character.
Oh,
so
okay.
Well, I mean,
that's when I wasn't high.
No, speaks for
you know, Vern.
Have you guys ever fought high? And if so, what fight? Tony?
Dude, I've fought high a lot. Well, what kind of high? There was a lot of different highs, man. You know what I mean? There were some highs that were good. There were some other highs that were not so good. But yeah, I did a couple fights, fucking. And this was after the Lions Den. I did one at the time I was doing meth. So I did one on meth, and that was not very good. High on marijuana. No, we didn't do it.
That was your drug of choice.
What's that? Yeah, but I live on weed 24/7, so it's not like that doesn't count because
you're a functional pothead.
Not just functional. Like a lot of my friends. Here's my tolerance to pot to this day. I have people come over. I dab a lot. I dab diamonds, which is as high THC content as you can get. But to me, it's more like a habit now. I do it just because I like doing it. It doesn't do shit to me. But my friends come visit. Hey, can I try it? Sure. And I'll give them a dab, and they end up on the floor in like the fetal. So that's when I think to myself, damn, bro, I feel like Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. You know?
Is that why you wanted me to come visit? You want to get pictures of me in the fetal position. I see now.
Vern, did you ever fight high?
Yes. I actually that one kid from Team Quest, from Randy's team. I remember Matt Horwich, and I remember the night before the fight, I brought some I brought some coke with me on the plane, and I was using it the night before the fight. Yeah, and then
first
after
fight or
the fight,
second
I was
fight?
using it again. Huh?
Both fights, or just the first fight?
I only fought Matt Horwich once.
Okay, we're doing some research. We actually, in theory, we're recording Matt Horwich tomorrow night for Monday's release. Interesting guy.
Yeah, they said he was living under a bridge, and I remember after that fight, that dude smelled so bad. I don't know how the athletic commission allowed me to fight him. Like he left the smell on me that was so bad that even my wife said, "Get in the shower," and I'm like, "I just got out of the shower." She's like, "Do it again." And then on top of that, I had ringworm from head to toe from Matt Horwich. Like that was. I understand they wanted to kind of build him up, and they did a good job because, like I said, I was high the night before, so I was not tip top Tiger White fighting Matt Horwich. I was like high coming down Tiger White, and even in the middle of the match, I remember I hit him so hard he went, "Ee!" And I said, "Oh crap! I think I heard him," and because I'm like coming down in my mind, I'm like, crap, I heard him, and I backed off, and then he ended up winning by a choke.
Yeah.
So if I had have been not taking drugs, I think that fight would have been a little bit different.
A lot of fights would have been a big different, bro.
In my research of Matt Horwich, you made a post-fight comment to somebody saying, the only reason you tapped out was because he stank so bad.
I remember, he was choking me, and I'm sitting there like, why am I doing this? What am I going to gain to this? You know? And I'm like, I just got to get out of this. I do remember that. I remember he smelled so bad. And even Ken was like, dude, I can't ride with you. He took a different ride. He would not ride with me back to the hotel. And his wife was like and she already looked at me sideways because she didn't like me that much. And then she was looking at me like, yeah, you stink and I don't like you. So they rode with some other people.
Yeah, Horwich is a guy that was described by UFC veteran Seth Bagzinski as socially awkward. Would you agree with that?
They told me that he was a retard with retard strength, and that was true.
Yeah, that sounds like his friends talking about him.
And they said he'll put up a good fight, and even some of them were like, don't hurt him, please don't hurt him. He's an aspiring fighter. He lives under a bridge, and I guess like I was the pinnacle of his career until he went to IFL,
where he beat Benji Raddick for the title. He might be on the spectrum. He legitimately might be on the spectrum.
They said he was a retard with retard strength.
His teammates. He was sitting in a hotel lobby one time and he was looking for help to get some food, and he had some money. He was like, can we get a sandwich? And his teammates made him go and ask a drunk Don Fry if he will pick him up a sandwich.
That sounds like something that he would do. He was awkward. Like, I actually sat and talked with him, and like his mom was like, "Thank you for not hurting my son," you know. And I'm like, yeah, it was a weird night, and we were in some bar, like it was like a Texas Roadhouse / something else. And I remember us, like, everyone sitting there, and Matt came over to talk to me, and then Ken was like, "Oh God," he got up and he walked away. Because Matt did not, unlike everyone else who went and took showers, he did not. I don't even know how his mom could hang out with him. So, but yeah, it was a weird and awkward night.
You know what's wild is Linland has that same reputation of just not bathing.
Yeah, and smelling like Funyuns.
And he and Linland were very close. Very close. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's a wrestler's thing, because I know some wrestlers that would be like, "Yeah, I don't shower for 2 weeks."
Oof.
Why? What? I mean, I understand that you don't want people touching you, and like, it's not a talent. That's nasty. That's like, how do you even wait? What do you live with a woman? Like, is she allow you to walk around like this?
Make sure that bed sheets are like off.
Yeah, that's oof.
It's a telltale sign of mental illness too. The way people kind of maintain their physical appearance. Yeah.
Now that I am working at a mental health institute, I don't know if I can say the name of it. It's called Lakes Crossing here in Sparks, and some people come in there, and some of them smell like dead bodies. Like, I can't understand how someone could get so bad that they would think that it is okay to smell like an open wound, but there's nothing wrong with them. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, do you know what it is? It's one, like, if somebody's got a tooth infection, you and I can smell it, but the person with the infection has got no idea that they're just kind of breathing out garbage. But you can tell a lot about if somebody's in a good place or a bad place just by physical appearance. Like, it's it's a good indicator.
I used to be that guy. Like, I was deathly afraid of dentists. And I remember I actually, like, my tooth hurt so bad, and I remember like scraping my tooth, and I could smell my finger when I pulled it out of my mouth as to where I couldn't smell it before. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is what people smell when I'm talking to them. And I have never been the same. Yeah, Tony's laughing because he knows I used to get in his face all the time, so I know he smelled it. And everybody else, I'm sure they smelled it too. But I had no idea. But now I make sure that I actually gargle with like food grade hydrogen peroxide. So if I have an infection, I get rid of it. Like, and I'm still afraid of dentists.
Okay. So Vern, little side note, this is not MMA talk. I used to go to Cuba. And when I went there, one time I forgot my toothpaste. And there was no toothpaste available. And they explained to me, this is what they said. No, the embargo doesn't allow us to import toothpaste. Plus, it would be against our rules to even use it anyway. It's got lots of sugar and chemicals. And in essence, they said 70% of illness starts in the back of your throat. There's only one thing that can kill all of the bad parts of it, but leave the good parts alone, and that is hydrogen peroxide. They said there's only two ways to get cavities, one on your enamel and the other on your gum. And like when they fight, everything is cool, but when one is beating the other, that's when you get cavities. And there's only one thing that destroys all the bad parts and leaves the good parts alone, and that's hydrogen peroxide. Dude, I haven't used toothpaste in like 20 years. I only use hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, I found when I found food grade hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, my life changed. Like, my health got much better. Like, I wasn't. Yeah. And like, people actually wanted to be around me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I must not smell as bad as I used to then.
Okay, so what happens, like if you're under the weather and got a little bit of a cold, if you deep gargle with it, you get a thick foam that's just infection. It goes after infection. And no, dude, it's phenomenal. Like I brush my teeth, but I use hydrogen peroxide.
That's for sure.
It's changed my life. It's absolutely changed my life.
Yep, same here.
Yeah.
Like I always have a bottle of it underneath my or either in my medicine cabinet, and then I actually have 35% food grade hydrogen peroxide, and I will take a bath with that with salt. It actually pulls impurities out, and it also hydrates. It puts the hydrogen into your skin, so you're actually killing any infection that might be on your skin, like MRSA or something like that.
It only goes
after a step up from you spraying Lysol on yourself, bro.
Yeah, and it didn't work. That crap did
doing
not
nuts,
work.
Man.
It just makes you smell like Lysol.
So, Miguel,
Yep.
I think we're ready, buddy.
Well, guys, definitely thank you very much for joining us again. This was great. We're going to have to do this again. I'm sure Pete will join us one of these days and hopefully keep it going. But definitely good catching up. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Pete will join us as soon as he comes back from his hiatus with his girl in Mexico.
So, Tony,
I thought he was high. I thought he was sleeping.
No. He's dating a chick from Mexico. I think she's from Guadalajara. She works for Bayer Labs. So he went to meet her, and they're having a blast, dude. He sends me texts from like, "Hey, what else can I do while I'm in Mexico City?" Like, bro. So I gave him a list of shit.
Awesome.
He's having a great time. He'll be back on Sunday.
So just so everybody knows, all this Lions Den stuff has been absolutely amazing for us. Tony Galindo has personally made sure that all of this has kind of come to fruition. Tony, you and I text all the time. And Vernon, we're going to give you about 30 days off, but we're going to be hitting you again for a little bit more of your career.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Vern, we got a ton of respect for you. Obviously, if you read the comments in our YouTube section, so do the people that follow our show. And you, both of you guys, Tony, especially you, man, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
One shot of me and my kid.
Got a little doggy?
There we go.
That's cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care, man.
Cheers.
All right, sir. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Vern.
Peace.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.